But the thing about comedy is, don't try and explain it. Don't watch it and then just react, just laugh. You know, and
Richard O'Sutherland.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's good. What's up, YouTube? Hello. It's me again. And I'm feeling a bit down. I've just seen this literally just before recording this. You can't see it, but I can. It's a video called "Is Basically Any Good" by Comedy Without Errors. He's got 35.8 thousand subscribers to my 913, and he seems to have, I won't say he's copied me, but what he's done is he's taken my format of watching comedy and commenting on it, and he's unfairly stolen it. And he's got problem is he's got an unfair advantage because I mean, for a start, he's got a better camera than me, and it looks better. Plus, he's written a script. He's doing proper comments, which, you know, to be fair, takes a long time. And also, he's not just playing it with him laughing at it and making the odd comment. Plus, the points he makes actually are quite clever and incisive and well thought out. So that is, but essentially he has just stolen my idea, and I'm quite angry, and I think it's disheartened me a bit, and I'm going to do this one anyway because I've started this whole series. But now that I've essentially been copyright struck by someone taking my idea and doing it much better than me, it makes me look stupid, and I'm not happy about that. So Comedy Without Errors, or as I might call you, Comedy with Errors, you're being very unfair to me and others like me who just want to become successful by putting in the least amount of effort possible. And you know, I've been doing quite well, but I don't know if I can be bothered to do this anymore, really. But I'll do this one anyway. There's probably a couple more bits. Let's dive in, and we'll just do this video, I suppose.
You are supposed to talk to the audience now. I very nearly invented it, but I lost my nerve. And of course, Phoebe Waller-Bridge got there first. I don't resent her that. I think it's better that ultimately all that broadsheet newspaper coverage and James Bond script writing commissions and billions of dollars of Netflix deals went to someone who already had an enormous private family income. But, because I'd only have wasted it, you know, on beans probably. But you are supposed to talk to the audience now. Who's seen me before here? Any of you? Yeah. So you've noticed tonight I'm addressing the audience a lot more directly than I normally would. I don't really like doing it. I find it very stressful. I don't really like talking to people generally in real life, to be honest. If I have to talk to people, I normally look at the floor or I look sort of to the side of their face. And if I have to lip read, hearing aids, and I actually look directly at someone. I find it incredibly terrifying, and I hadn't really realised that I'd spent my life avoiding eye contact. So it was about 15 years ago. I was working with a TV director, Peter Orton, probably know Peter, and It obviously been building up, because suddenly he just lost his rag with me, and he shouted, "When talking to someone, Stuart, it's customary to look them in the eye." And then he walked off, and I was left alone, and I kind of went to pieces, really, because I realised for the first time that I'd spent my whole life trying to avoid any, and I don't know why. Look, I'm not a therapist, but I was trying to think why this might be, and I spent the first 18 months, 2 years of my life in care. I was shunted around a succession of children's homes in Shropshire and Staffordshire, so I wouldn't have had the kind of moment-to-moment understanding of intimacy. So there's about 20 minutes of the show left now. And this is the optimum point for bringing in this kind of material. About 20 minutes from the end, you bring in an emotionally manipulative subplot. And you normally find that gives you enough of a push just to carry the audience with you through to the end. If you've seen a lot of long-form narrative stand-up, you'll have seen other stand-ups doing this. People like Daniel Kitson, Hannah Gadsby, Fern Brady. I was the first person to do this. But yeah, it's been a struggle in adult life.
It's very much like me with what I'm doing. I'm the first one to have done this, but other people will come along and basically steal. It doesn't matter.
I suspect that I've had periods of undiagnosed depression. Certainly, I was fast-tracked by my, and I found lockdown particularly difficult. I know a lot of us did. I just lost it, really. I stopped caring about myself. I gained weight, I lost weight, I gained weight again, drinking. At the end of lockdown, I went to see my GP, and I did something I wouldn't normally do. I went to see my GP, and I said to him, Doctor, I think I'm depressed." And he said, "We're doing this, are we? Seriously? fucking Doctor Joe. What's fucking wrong with you, prick?" I've got impatience to see, and I said, "Come on! Return the ball!" Doctor, I think I'm depressed." And he said, "Whenever I'm depressed," he said, "I cheer myself up by going to see the funniest comedian that there is, Stewart Lee." And I said, "I am Stewart Lee." He said, "Oh, I didn't recognise you, put on a lot of weight." Good joke that, I think. And then he said, "You may have an undiagnosed neurodiverse condition," he said. "Most comedians have, and they've all been able to monetise it." He said, "I'm going to ask you 5 questions that will tell me," he said, "if that's the case." Now, I've got these 5 questions here, and I'd like to read them out. If people have seen me before, you'll know there's normally a bit in every show, if you've seen them on the telly, where I read out some serious thing, like a death threat or something that I've had, and to make it funny, underneath I will play in a light jazz instrumental, normally in a major key, and you find the contrast between the seriousness of the questions and the frivolity of the jazz will create humour. Now, I'd like to do that tonight, read out these questions and play in the jazz, but I can't play in the jazz because we've left the EU. Now, I don't want to get back into all that, okay? We are where we are. People knew what they were voting for, and suggest otherwise is patronising, I think. But the problem is, okay, I need to read this up. I can't play it because we're with the EU. The problem is, I'm filming this, right? And when you film it and then sell it on to a broadcaster, you have to pay a clearance fee for the music, any music in it, and that's normally about £6,000, right? Now, when we were in the EU, that one £6,000 fee that would cover you for selling this to any EU territory.
I've been stunned into silence, really, by that video, by that guy. Because now, there's no point me commenting, is there? Because anything I say, he will have said something cleverer and more insightful. So there's not much point. So if I look like I'm just sitting and enjoying it and not really bothering, then it's his fault.
And because of the negotiating power of a trade bloc, Brussels could get really cheap deals off, Canada, America, whatever. The problem now is we've left the EU. So when I filmed this, and if I want to try and sell this on, even just to the
And I hope he feels bad about that.
Republic of Ireland, if it's got music in it, I've got to pay another £6,000 every time. Now, these 2-hour blocks of shows you see of mine, they normally give me about 110 grand to film them, and then after all the costs, I'm left with about 8,000-9,000 before tax and an agent's commission. So as you can see, I've only got to try and sell it on one more time, and I've lost money because I can't play in the jazz because we've left the EU. And I know there's been a lot of problems with Brexit people didn't see coming. But I think if people had known that it would limit their access to jazz, we may have seen some very different voting patterns. Particularly in a lot of the hardcore Leave voting towns, like South Shields, Peterborough, Scunthorpe. They're all big jazz towns. Scunthorpe's like New Orleans, isn't it, in the 50s? Paris after the war, melodies drifting through every wrought iron balcony. So I can't play in the jazz because we've left the EU. The problem is this doesn't really work, these questions, without the jazz playing in underneath. So what a lot of you will be thinking, you're probably thinking, just cut this bit, right? Just cut it. I can't cut this bit, right? Because, if you've seen it before, right, okay, you'll notice this show, it's a lot more fun than they normally are, isn't it? There's a kind of solid 20 of Frankie Boyle kind of punchy gags at the top. There's a lot of fun interaction with the audience. Sometimes it goes wrong. But it's mainly... The show feels a lot looser than they normally do, and a lot less formal. But when you get home tonight and you think about what you've seen, you'll realise that, of course, this show is as rigorously structured as they always are. You may realise that. You may not realise that. None of the critics did. The problem is I can't drop this bit because it ties back to the beginning, it sets up the end, and it's sort of the emotional through line of what the show is about. But it won't work without the jazz, but I have got to do it. So what I'm going to ask you to do here tonight is in your own heads. When I read these questions out, all of you, just imagine silently a simple jazz instrumental in a major key running underneath what I'm saying, and then it'll be fine. And if you're sitting there thinking, this isn't funny, then you've imagined the wrong music. Because it fucking is funny. Right, now we need this bit to work, otherwise the last 10 minutes goes wrong, right? So we're just going to talk you through it. So I will say, imagine your jazz now Salford, and then and at home you can imagine your jazz as well. Probably better, to be honest. And then let the jazz run on underneath, right? When I start reading out these questions, just sort of dial it down a little bit, and then bring all the jazz up together at the end. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are really struggling here in Salford. Let's talk you through again. So I will say. No, we need this to work, otherwise the last 10 minutes. So I'll say, imagine your jazz now, Salford. Run the jazz on underneath. Simple. Just keep it. There's no need to do anything. Don't go mad, you know. Don't suddenly do an amazing trombone solo and go, oh, have you heard these trombones? They're incredible. I didn't know the trombone could be like that. Don't do that, because that's for your benefit, isn't it? This is for me. Help me. Don't do that. Do you understand? Right, what I'm saying is, I will say, imagine your jazz now, Salford, right? Run the jazz on underneath, a simple, the best man in the stripes. You don't have to worry about it, sir. It is jazz, right? But nothing that sounds like it could have come after about 9:56, 57. Okay? Well, because that's when the avant-garde influence started to come in, isn't it? Yeah, you got people like Sonny Murray on the drums, yeah? Yeah, changing our idea, not just of rhythm, but of what time itself was, really. Admittedly, mainly in his Scandinavian radio session work with Henry Grimes, people like that. But, well, those tapes must have been heard in New York, I think, because in terms of the approach to the kit at that time, it's almost like a Switches. Or, someone like Albert Ayler on the saxophone. A lot of you, like ravers from here, you'd think, oh, that just sounds like old gospel music, and it does. But what Albert Ayler was doing is he was using that music sort of ironically as a critique of post-war American race politics, right? And both those things are great, but they're not really relevant to what we're trying to do. Just park that. Worry about that. Get back on board. I will say, imagine your jazz now, Salford. Run the jazz on and look at you. You go, what kind of lineup is it? It doesn't matter. Just a simple trio, mate. Do you do that? Just drums, bass, not the fucking Sun Ra Orchestra. 20 blokes dressed as Egyptians from space drumming mincemeat into a well, or whatever the fuck it is they do in a publicly funded venue. Right? So, don't do that. Just, I will say, listen. This is being filmed, right? So pay attention, right? Let's get this good. I will say, imagine your jazz now, Salford. Run the jazz on underneath, simple trio. That, you know, give everyone a solo if you must. I'd rather you didn't. But if you do, keep it in the same key, yeah? Don't think, oh, let's go like Eric Dolphy, dissonant. Challenge the fascism of harmony. Don't do that. Same time signature. Don't think, oh, I'll leave the drums in 4/4, everything else in 6/8. After 28 bars, they'll all meet up at the end like Van de Graaff Generator. It's not fucking prog rock wank. This is jazz. Jazz, Salford. I will say, imagine your jazz. Run the jazz on a simple 3 or 4, run it underneath, keep it the right side of the 50s avant-garde explosion, yeah? Simple trio. If you must give everyone a solo, don't. But if you do, keep it. Make sure the solo quotes fairly heavily from whatever melodic themes you've established at the top, so people feel like they're in safe hands and not going, oh, where's this going? Right. So establish. I will say, imagine your jazz now, Salford. Run the jazz on underneath, a simple 3 or 4 note theme from a little trio. I'll start speaking. If you do solos. Relate back to the original thing. When I'm speaking, drop the jazz down and then bring all the themes together at the end and resolve it, perhaps with a diminished seventh. And for God's sake, don't get sidetracked into a long, self-indulgent improvisation.
What a perfect place to end that bit. It's very much reminds me of that bit of a Daniel Kitson routine that I was going to react to, where he does a thing about a pigeon, and it's very clever, and he tells a story about a pigeon, and it's the reference of what he's talking about becomes the reference to who he is in the context of the routine. And that's what that was, and that's what the thing I'm saying is. And that it's actually it's very hard, isn't it, to say intelligent things about comedy, and that's why I guess this guy's got 38,000 plus subscribers, and I've only got 913. I've been going for 6 years. I've still not got to 1,000, and that, I mean, it doesn't get me down, but it's not fair, and it's simply because I'm not very good at what I'm doing, and that shouldn't hold me back. It's not fair, is it, in a way? So so there you go. So thanks, Comedy Without Errors, which I bet there are errors in it as well. I mean, I can't really be bothered to go through, and I'll tell you what I might do is do a reaction to his breakdown of this, and in some way cleverly, subvert something. I don't know what it is, but I think that could be funny. The thing about comedy is, don't try and explain it. Don't watch it and then just react, just laugh. And I don't know what the point. Maybe he will mention my channel. If I mention his channel, there's a chance he'll mention my channel, or there'll be comments I can make comments on his video, and then maybe some people will watch my videos, and I'll get some of his subscribers to watch my stuff. But it's unlikely, isn't it? Because my stuff isn't very good, clearly, as I've identified myself. So eloquently in my own video. So thanks for watching. Do like, subscribe, hit the notifications button, leave a comment below, share as well, share, and because sharing is caring. Yeah, I'll see you next time, and don't nobody go nowhere.